Welcome back to another episode of TVGP's Critical Misses, the show we catch up on all the hits we've missed. I'm your host, Boston. Joining me as always is Moonpeer.
Howdy.
And welcome to Season 9. We got our first twin behind us. Took a little bit of a break between main courses here in Season 8 with two fantastic and surprisingly related movies. Make sure you go listen to those if you haven't. So for Season 9, we're gonna hop into something that's not much bigger. We're gonna hop into the M. Night Shyamalan Unbreakable trilogy, which is what is it? Unbreakable, Glass, and Split. One of which I have seen.
Massive spoilers right there in the front of it. By the way.
Yeah. I guess if you didn't know that about Split, welcome to the season. But yeah, I have seen Split, which we'll get to in episode 3.
Two, dude. Two.
What?
Episode 2. Split is episode 2 in this list.
Why is Split episode 2?
So Split is the middle one.
Oh, Glass came out in 2019. I see. Okay, interesting. I didn't realize that. Not prepared for this show at all. Anyways, first up, we're going to talk about Unbreakable.
We are professionals. That's what we are.
First up, we're going to talk about Unbreakable, featuring one of Hollywood's biggest jerks, Bruce Willis. Which is
Don't even have to put an allegedly on that anymore.
No,
it's just true.
Yeah. I believe Samuel L. Jackson is in this movie as well. I feel like with every M. Night Shyamalan movie, eventually the thing you learn via osmosis is the twist. You know, the sort of South Park. Oh, it's a twist. That sort of thing.
It's the thing that comes out like immediately when an M. Night Shyamalan movie comes out. It's like, here is the twist. I'm surprised I have not been spoiled on Old yet, to be completely honest.
Yeah, it's still too new probably for that to be wide. But I feel like the first question is always, is there a twist? And someone goes, yeah, of course. And you're like, yeah, of course, all right. And then the other one is, okay, what is it? Like, I'll probably still go see it. Wink. What's the twist? I know in this movie, the only thing I know is that Samuel L. Jackson, I believe, plays a character named Mr. Glass, who has brittle bones. And Bruce Willis plays some dude, and I think he is not invulnerable, but maybe more hardy than the standard person. Yeah. So I don't know if it's like to a superhero level, but I know there's something going on. I guess that's the long and short of every M. Night Shyamalan movie is like, you got the squinty eyes, and you're like, something's going on here. But I'm assuming you have seen at least the first 2 of these movies?
Yes, I have seen Unbreakable. I have seen Split.
Okay.
I have not seen Glass yet. So you're not far off, if I'm completely honest. So you know the two stars straight off the bat. You know those 2. Spoiler alert: M. Night Shyamalan does appear because he puts himself in all of his movies.
Of course he does.
Can you name him in which of the movies is the question?
No, I don't. I feel like every time I watch one of his movies, I watch it once and go like, yeah, that was really good, and just never... I have maybe seen Signs twice, but I think all the other ones I've seen, I've watched...
I know, that's the only one of his I can remember is who he is in Signs.
Oh, I don't remember him in Signs.
He's the dude who kills Mel Gibson's wife.
Oh, jeez. Okay, yeah, pretty memorable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll have my peepers open for an M. Night Shyamalan sighting.
So this is essentially Unbreakable is essentially his attempt at making a comic book movie.
Okay, interesting.
before comic book movies as we know them now came to exist. So this is a very, like, this is essentially like what Christopher Nolan did with the Batman trilogy, which is he was like, yeah, it's Batman, but it's more real, more realized,
Right.
and more in our world.
Right.
This is similar, whereas like this is a comic book story, but it is hyper fixated with staying in reality.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not gonna lie, like I like M. Night Shyamalan movies.
I do too. I haven't seen all of them leading up to this. I don't think I saw The Village. But
I like that. People were so mean to that, but that had a tension that you would not believe.
I feel like the conversation we just had about like, all right, what's the twist? And like you look it up on Wikipedia to figure out if you're going to go see the movie or not, as opposed to just going and spending an hour and a half to watch it. I feel like that's the thing that always sort of screws this guy over, is like everyone's always waiting for the shoe to drop, and he sort of has to now to a certain extent, because I feel like if he puts out a movie where there isn't a twist, everyone would be like, you dare to not twist? Like, who do you think you are? It's an unenviable position, to be sure.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I think his biggest problem is, obviously, his first big hit was The Sixth Sense, which it's a mastery in storytelling. It's a mastery in cinematography.
That's a great movie.
It's got probably one of the best child actors that existed in Haley Joel Osment. Like, he was fantastic. I'm glad to see he's still acting these days.
He's great in The Boys.
For those of you who don't remember.
He is also Sora in Kingdom Hearts.
But that's like, he's only going to get that job once every 24 years. So
he's fine. Yeah, he'll pass it down to his kids for Kingdom Hearts 4. It'll be great. Yeah.
Like, Sixth Sense is lightning in a bottle. It really is. And Unbreakable had the downside of following Sixth Sense as his next movie.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize it was his second one. Wow. I thought Signs had come first. Interesting.
No, I think it's Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, then Signs.
Yeah.
And I like Unbreakable. I like Unbreakable a lot. I think I probably like this movie more than The Sixth Sense, because all that's in The Sixth Sense is the twist. Like, once you know that, you can rewatch it and see all of the references and stuff like that. However, that's all there kind of is to it. Whereas in this, I feel like there's a lot of character, there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of relationships built up throughout the whole thing. And it has an interesting way of building the world. A villain who you can relate to and a hero you don't want to relate to. It's very intriguing and a different spin on the kind of quote unquote comic book movies we now come to know.
Right.
But
and it's also surprising. I didn't realize Unbreakable was so old, and there's such a huge gap between. Unbreakable came out in 2000 and Split came out in 2016. It's like, that's a huge gap between these two movies. I mean, obviously that's sort of the point of Split, which we'll get to in the next episode. But
well, literally the talk about it got you to watch it, so
that
tells you everything you need to know.
I got it. It was very much the same thing that happened with Sixth Sense, where it's like, this movie is really great. You should go see it. Don't look at anything before you go see it. It's like, okay, sure. Enough people have recommended, like, enough people that I trust recommended it. I can spend an hour and a half, sure. And I feel like when Unbreakable came out, I feel like there was still the recommendation coming from people of like, it's not Sixth Sense, but it's still pretty good. And I don't know where that came from. Maybe people are expecting lightning to strike twice, and maybe having some unrealistic expectations. But I feel like the fervor was a lot less around this one.
Yeah, I think it definitely was, because to a lot of people, they adored Sixth Sense, and I think this was a slight disappointment to them. And it was
Right.
for me at the time. I will admit that much as well. Like at the
Hat
time,
sighting.
yes, at the time, this is a lesser movie than Sixth Sense.
Right.
Well, on rewatching, this is the one I definitely preferred.
Right. Um. Okay. Well, you have any final thoughts here for Unbreakable before we sort of hop into this thing?
Honestly, I'm excited to see what you think, because you're one of the
Yeah.
people I know that will go into this kind of thing with an open mind.
Yeah. And I like superhero stuff, and I like I feel like this might be kind of the equivalent of, I like urban fantasy books where it's like, what if dragons and fairies and goblins, but in Chicago? And it's like, yeah, all right,
Oh,
I'm a sucker for that stuff, and I feel like this might
or
scratch.
Russia.
Yeah, exactly. Or what if you were an IT guy fighting vampires in Russia? Night Watch, everyone, please read it. I feel like this might scratch that same itch of like, what if superheroes, but modern day? I feel like that might be kind of scratching that itch a little bit. All right. Well, on that note, let's go watch the movie.
Bye.
Welcome back. We've watched Unbreakable, 2000's Unbreakable, featuring a whole bunch of babies that are very young. A very young, understated Bruce Willis, a very young Sam Jackson, a whole bunch of other babies. Robin Wright is in this, killing it,
Yep.
as she usually does. You're I think you said in the first part of this episode that you're a fan of this movie, right?
Correct. This is probably knowing about Split. Split is probably my favorite Shyamalan movie, just because of the
Sure.
performances in it. This is probably my favorite overall Shyamalan movie.
Okay. The reason why I ask is, and part of
Because
the
you hate
reason
it?
I don't hate it, but I'm hoping that us discussing it will maybe uh, shine a different light on it than the movie I experienced while watching it.
Okay.
I think Unbreakable is a solid movie. It is slow in
Yes.
a way that I think sometimes is good for it. Like, I like the real quiet moments between Bruce Willis and Robin Wright, where it's just they are obviously having problems from the beginning of the movie, where Bruce Willis is in the train and very quickly takes his ring off when he sees
Yep.
the pretty lady sitting next to him.
This
But
is it opens you up immediately to a hero that you hate and a
right,
villain that you sympathize with
right,
very quickly.
yeah, yeah. That was a pretty interesting intro with what's his character's name? Elijah,
Yes.
being born. Um,
Uh-huh.
that kid cries for a real long time. That's always rough. I'm a stay-at-home dad, so I watch a lot of kids TV, and a lot of kids TV shows will let the new baby in the family cry for a really long time in like a 20-minute episode. So I've heard too much of that, and I'm just like, please,
Oh,
please,
jeez.
the scene is so long. Please, please stop making the baby cry, please. But I thought that was a pretty interesting start. Um, I like a lot of the quiet moments between the whole family, but especially Bruce Willis and Robin Wright. I like. There's a really good date scene. There's a really good, like, she comes and knocks on his door and asks if he's been with anyone else. Like, there are these.
While at the same time saying it's not going to affect me a million times, meaning it will 1000% affect
Yeah,
them.
she's like really psyched herself up for the answer she knows is coming, and he doesn't give her the answer she thinks, and it's like there are a couple really good scenes like that I think. I think the slow, quiet nature of this movie really work for that, but I think there's a lot of other stuff where I kind of wanted to move forward a little bit, and the hard part is like going into this knowing it's a superhero movie. How do you push back on Marvel poisoning? Where it's like,
Yes,
all right, here's the first 15 minutes.
Yeah,
like,
this was before all of that stuff.
Yeah, and it's I have problems at the ending of this movie, which we'll get to, but like it's hard. I like the Marvel stuff. I'm not like super fan number one.
It's popcorn movies. It's
yeah, they're
quintessentially popcorn movies.
Yeah, they're well made, good movies.
Yeah, and they all have essentially the same plot line at this point.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it's really interesting to kind of push back on that in this and say like, no, it's a almost 2-hour movie where not a lot happens for about the first 2 acts. Now that have looked at interviews with Shyamalan by design, but I think a lot of it is probably a smidge slower than I'd like.
Yeah, see, I don't mind that too much because it is essentially it's the origin story, and I love the fact that it's all about character building.
Yeah,
like especially when we'll talk about the stuff that happens later.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of like hints in there. Like the one thing I will say is we are doing the trilogy, so we are doing Unbreakable, Split, Glass.
Yep.
I would say once you have seen Glass, and I will remind you to do this, once we have seen Glass, before we record this episode, go and do the Cinema Wins trilogy, because the Cinema Wins has done the entire trilogy.
Oh, interesting.
There's a lot more depth to this movie than people give it credit for.
And
a lot of it is framed and shot like a comic book.
Yeah, I sort of went into this looking for some of that stuff because I feel like I have absorbed a little bit about this movie over time. I feel like I absorbed like maybe 25% of the roles reversing between Bruce Willis and Sam Jackson over the course of the movie. Like you said, like you start off not liking Bruce Willis and really sympathizing with Elijah, and watching the two of their roles kind of slowly swap over the whole movie is interesting. But I did kind of keep an eye out for framing and stuff. Like there are, especially during the third act, there is a lot of like David is wearing that like rain slicker outfit.
Raincoat.
Yeah, the raincoat thing. And there's some really interesting framing during like the superhero business.
So, fun fact, it starts right at the beginning, after the train crash,
right?
When the doctor is talking to him. He is literally center frame in a comic book panel with the curtains and the guy at the bottom.
Yep.
And like it's a very like the photography in this movie I adore. It's very simple at times. It's very basic at times. But there is a lot of photography. Like the director of photography did an incredible job for this whole movie. I think like the slightly out of focus or slightly askew shots as well. Like when David and Elijah are talking, and David's like, I think it's like the midpoint, and David's like, no, just stay out of my life and don't ever talk to my wife again, please, kind of thing. And like the frame slowly goes to the right, and David gets more and more to the left of the frame, like
sort of by himself. Yeah, that's a cool shot.
That shot.
Well, and like at the beginning, like third or half of the movie, most of the times that you see Elijah, he's reflected in some sort of surface. Yeah. I really I agree with you. I think that shot of David talking to the doctor after the crash is probably one of my favorite shots, just for the closer to you, that person that they're working on, um like the only other survivor, and watching that blood spot slowly growing as the camera zooms in, and then the doctor saying a minute after that, like, in a couple of minutes you're probably going to be the last survivor of this train crash. It's like that. All right, that was pretty. I like how you managed to cut those two together. It's not like the most revolutionary thing, but it's pretty nice.
Yeah.
I I largely like Bruce Willis's performance in this. I typically don't like him in a lot of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but I like this kind of like, he acts as tired as I am right now. Like
Yes.
this is a dude who's like, he is at the end of his rope and he's burnt out and he's just kind of like, all right, I survived this thing, but okay, cool, I
And
guess. I'm gonna go back to work.
like it's also a case of like his relationship with his wife is super complicated because whether he wants to admit it or not, he has kept himself distant from both his wife and his kid.
Yeah,
We don't know why. Turns out
right.
because he's not really feeling fulfilled. But one of the reasons he's not really feeling fulfilled is because he is literally living with a lie he has told his wife since they were in high school.
Right, right. Like,
Because
especially
you
since the
gotta,
car crash.
yeah, that's the lie I'm talking about. It's like
Yep.
he knows, like he doesn't remember this. He knows, like full stop. He knows that he did not get hit in that accident,
Mm-hmm.
and he chose to not tell his wife that he wasn't hurt. That he lied about it so he could give up football to be with her.
Right.
Like that's something he's living with, and relationships are complicated. So he's probably, without meaning to, he is putting a lot of onus on her to be like, well, you don't understand and appreciate me because you don't understand and appreciate what I've done because I've never actually said to you, yes, I gave up
Right.
football to be with you.
Right.
Like, he's never said that out loud,
Right.
So.
And it's interesting to sort of balance that against Elijah's story of this fear of going outside and this fear of kind of living his life because of his disease. And it's I mean, it's obviously the core of this movie is the balance between the two of them, the comparison between the two of them. But I feel like it's actually done fairly well.
Mhm.
And it's, I don't think, obviously Elijah is Mr. Glass in this. I don't think David has any sort of um, name, superhero
Doesn't
name.
he doesn't in this? Do you want to know
Okay.
what it is?
No, that's okay, because they might drop it in Split, and I just don't remember. But I couldn't remember if they dropped any of them in this, and I don't know. I feel like it's interesting watching David fight against being who he is throughout the entire movie. Um, I feel like probably one of the standout scenes is the bench press scene, which is one I didn't really like.
I love that scene, like with a passion.
I feel like half of the reason I don't like it is because of Bruce Willis. I just don't feel like, for me, he kind of sells it. Um, I I really like the back half of this movie way more than I do the front half, and I feel
Mhm.
like, I also feel like, all right, so here's a personal thing
Okay.
about me and movies. I despise movies that I call tear factories. And they're essentially movies where you're going to go and you're going to watch an uplifting tale. And when the soccer team wins the cup, the sweeping score comes in, and that's the moment everyone's supposed to cry.
So you don't like dog movies, is what I'm hearing.
Well,
the podcast would be so disappointed. Yeah, we're recording this in August.
Yeah. Part of what I don't like about this movie is its score. I feel like
please! I adore this score so much.
I feel like it veers too much into the like heroic brass and the sad strings and stuff like that. It is a well-made score. It is well performed. It is well orchestrated. I so like viscerally push back when someone starts doing something heroic and the score's like burr, 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 burr. It's just like, okay, cool.
Hold on. Just earlier in this same recording, we were talking about how the Marvel movies are well-made popcorn movies, essentially. They are the guiltiest of that.
100%, and I don't like it.
Dude,
the Marvel movie scores do a number of things that I don't appreciate, including using 80s music, 70s and 80s music to forcefully tug your heartstrings. But that's for another season of this show.
Dude, I adore this score so much because using modern day references, which is all you can do when you look back at things like this, like it or not, these things don't live in a vacuum. I like Marvel scores, but they can be way over the top sometimes.
Oh, for sure.
One of the things I love about this score is it's very muted. It's very low. It doesn't hit you in the face with that brass like Marvel does. Like Marvel does that from like the logo. Like when they play the Marvel logo, the brass hits.
And to be fair, this is me being a little unfair and judging a 21-year-old movie for sins of movies today. And it's just one of those things where I push back against it. It is super well done, but like when the hero is winning and the strings come on, I'm always like, oh god, here we go. It's not fair. That's me. But
so disappointed because I genuinely do love this score.
Yeah. And I feel like that's part of the reason why I think that the bench pressing scene doesn't work super well for me, but also I don't know. I think for me, I think it's more interesting that is the catalyst for the rest of the movie, being like, all right, now we're sort of proving to David that it's like
his Neo moment, his subway train fight moment.
His jumping across skyscrapers moment. I think it's more interesting for that. But I think a lot of I do have to say, I think it's followed by a much better scene, which is, his kid has a gun, which is an incredible scene.
We'll get to that scene in a second. But yeah, that bench press scene, like, I'm not going to lie, it took me like halfway through that scene the first time I saw it to realize what was going on with it. Because like, if the dude is literally unbreakable, he's never going to pull a muscle. He's never going to tear a muscle. He's never going to break. So that allows him to go logically past what human beings are normally physically capable of doing so.
Right.
So like him finally getting past that mental block in your own head where it's like, yeah, I can't do this.
Sure.
To then be like, and especially I like the fact that the kid lies so much.
Yep.
The kid, because that's a good scene, because like he's helping his dad work out, and his dad's like, that was really heavy. How much did you take off? And he's like,
funny story.
I didn't. I had more.
Yeah.
And then they had more, and they had them all, and every single time it cuts back to the kid, he's further and further away from.
I did like that. We're just like he's like really, halfway up the stairs. Yep.
Like the paint cans as well getting used is a nice little addition. And then it's like, okay, what happens if something goes wrong? Get mom.
Right.
Yes, sure. Good luck explaining what happened, by the way, why the paint can strapped to the dumbbell, like rod, sure. But yeah, I really like the bench press scene.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, the next scene is probably the best scene in the movie.
Yeah, I like it starts out with David being like, he doesn't even know where the bullets are. And he goes, oh, you mean the one in your Player of the Year trophy? And he's like,
Mm-hmm.
wait a minute.
I'm sorry, did you load that gun?
Right.
Tell me right now, did you load that gun?
Yeah. It's...
So,
Go ahead.
fun fact. This scene is actually based off, supposedly based off something that happened with the guy who originally played Superman on the TV show, like the
Okay.
OG Superman,
Mm-hmm.
not any of the new incarnations, like 60s, 70s, I think it was.
Sure.
And a child fan brought a gun to a meeting with him.
Oh, geez.
And had this kind of exchange, except instead of being like, yeah, I'm going to leave, like the guy who played Superman said to him, if you shoot me, it will bounce off me and hurt somebody else.
Sure.
And I got to say, Audrey's line of friends don't shoot friends.
Yep. It's real good. Yeah. And there's just like, I feel like this is one of those scenes where I really like Bruce Willis's acting of like this slowly ratcheting panic where it's like, hey, put the gun down. It's not even loaded. And he's like, oh no, it's loaded. Oh no, he's gonna shoot me. Oh God, he's gonna shoot me for real. Like there's a real good sense of panic and a real great. He does a real great job in a way that I feel like he usually doesn't.
Yeah, and honestly, I like the fact that we don't get an answer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't know. Is he bulletproof? We don't know.
Right. There's no, like, music montage where they're setting him on fire and they shoot him with a bullet and they put a railroad spike through his foot. Oh, like, there's none of that. It's just like, yeah, we don't know anything about what he could potentially do. I mean, we know the downside of it in a little bit, but I agree.
I do like the never getting sick line as well. Like, how many times have you been sick is like the thing that kicks this whole thing off.
Mm-hmm.
And like he calls his boss and he's like, well, he leaves a message for his boss. He's like, how many sick days have I had?
Right.
It's like, literally none in 6 years.
I like his boss is like, oh yeah, real great way of asking for a raise. I guess you need one because you've never had a sick day, you jerk, you big dumb jerk.
Well,
I do, yeah, I do really like the small scene of him asking Audrey about the last time he's been sick, and like they have a real good discussion where it's like, was it in this house? Was it in our crappy apartment? Was it when we met? Like, when was the last time?
George Reeves, by the way, was the actor who played Superman.
Oh, okay. I think this is where David and Elijah sort of figure out David's like intuition.
Instinct, yeah. The Spidey sense kind of thing.
Yeah, his like security guard Spidey sense. I think this stuff was done fairly well. I think I like that it starts out with the guy that has a gun in the security line where it's David is using his like his work knowledge of like, are we gonna start pat downs? If he does have a gun, he'll just kind of sneak right out of line, no big deal.
Yep.
I like that it's like, well, it's plausible, of course. I've been doing this job for a long time. Like, and this is how it goes.
He's wearing camo gear in the middle of a football game, which you don't need to.
Right.
And then I like the fact that like David kind of brushes it off, but Elijah has to know. He has to know. No matter what it takes, Elijah has to know.
Yep.
And he follows him to the subway.
Just like the dread, I feel like Shyamalan has built up this character so well that shot, that zoom shot down those 2 flights of stairs is terrifying. Like, it's just, what's going to happen, what it's going to do to him, and that he's just gonna push it too hard, and you just have like that hitch in your breathing for a moment where it's like, oh no, oh, he's gonna do it. And boy, he does. And like I think it's really well done that he doesn't just like fall immediately. He starts stepping too fast, and it gets faster and faster and faster. And he's like gets out of control, and then he slips and falls. And
it's the most gruesome shot of the movie, I would say.
It's all really rough, and like
this is also at a point where we're still very sympathetic towards Samuel Jackson,
right?
So it's happened at the worst time for us because you're starting to like him, you're starting to understand where he's coming from. He runs a comic books like store, which is like a like fine art gallery kind of thing called Limited Edition, which is quality.
Yeah, at this point, it's sort of like Elijah is like a little too into comic books in a way that you have always known a dude that's like a little too into comic books, where like that's enough of who they are and more of their perception than it should be. So like Elijah through most of the movie seems like that sort of worryingly harmless kind of dude, where it's like, you're a good dude, but like just pull yourself out of the comics just a little bit, just a smidge.
Especially with his disability, like he takes all threat away from him. Like all threat is gone because like he falls down the stairs and shatters his leg.
Mm-hmm. And like I think there's a really great shot of his cane shattering too, because of course that's made out of glass, which I think
he likes his themes.
Well, I think reading some of the behind the scenes stuff, apparently Sam Jackson recommended the cane made out of glass because it makes Elijah a little more toothless, and recommended the purple coloring scheme to kind of complement David's green color scheme, because heroes and villains kind of need to be opposites and complementary.
Yeah, and also like I'm a big fan of taking a negative and turning it into a positive. Like my nickname that I use was an insult that I got in high school for 6 years,
right?
And I've basically turned it into what most people call me on a daily basis.
Right.
It's like, yes, you are correct. This is a facet of my being that you made fun of. Now it's me.
I'm taking it.
Yeah, so deal with it.
Yeah. Apologies for the video, people. I do not want to download and install Git for Windows right now. Thank you. Yeah, and this is I like this turn here because, as you know, Elijah is sort of getting the riot act from his doctor about what he broke and how the recovery is going to go, and et cetera, et cetera. And he goes to physical therapy, and Audrey is the person who's going to be helping him in kind of an interesting reveal of, you know, Audrey's talking to him, and very suddenly you figure out Elijah's there. Elijah starts grilling him about her husband and sort of drops that he knows that David is her husband without her telling him who David is.
Yep.
Which is like one of those first ones where it's like, this all seems a little coincidental. That's
no.
concerning.
If he's done as much research as you know he has done by the end of the movie, you know he knows who David is, he knows who he's married to, and know their profession, and then you accidentally get into an accident, which was an accident. I don't think it was deliberate at all, to fall down the stairs. But if you have that opportunity to choose, because let's face it, he will have gone to a lot of doctors over his time.
Right.
He might just be saying, yeah, I just want to go to this one instead.
Right.
Like, it's a good opportunity for him to insert himself into that area without having to worry about any questions.
Right. Gosh, what else happens here?
Do we want to talk about the crowd scene? Like, we're pretty much up to it now. Like, where David starts going out in crowds with people, and starts like Number one, by the way, I love the fact that his outfit is the raincoat thing
Yeah.
because he doesn't like water, which
Right. Right.
it's like the fact that that's referenced at the very beginning of the movie, and
That's true. Yeah.
it comes all the way back around by the end. Um, but yeah, he goes to, I'm guessing, a train station, like a big mass
Yep.
transit station, and he does the whole arms slightly out as people bump into him thing.
Seeing the bad peeps that are around him.
Yes.
Yeah. A lot
It's
of like. Go ahead.
horrific, is how I would describe this scene, to be honest, because
Yeah.
there's a lot, like a lot. Did you catch M. Night Shyamalan, by the way? Did you
I
catch his?
did. Yeah, the suspected drug dealer waiting in the concessions line. Um,
Mhm.
pretty good. Pretty good couple minute scene of him. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. The
good.
train station with the flashes to the, and I hate phrasing it this way, but sometimes you gotta go after the really bad guys
Yeah.
because everybody here is arguably people who need to be taught some lessons.
hmm Yeah, and I like the little touch. It would probably be a little bit passe in 2021 to do the like. It's a largely a gray drab scene, but here's the bad person who has a green shirt on, and here's a bad person with a red hat on, and but I think it works fairly well in this. Um, and he goes after the orange dude, who is real bad. Um,
Yep. So we get
and
the possible child abuse with the
right,
mother and kid. We get the rapist with the party scene,
right,
which I like the fact that he's wearing different clothes. Like
yeah.
he is wearing like a lime green and like Hawaii shirt and
hmm
like trees shirt. And then when it goes back to him at the train station, he's wearing the same colors, but it's not the same actual outfit.
right.
What else was there? There was something else as well.
There's one other guy. The guy. Oh, the lady that stole the watch or bracelet or whatever over the
Yes,
counter.
red.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
and then yeah, we get to the orange guy who, yeah,
Breaks
just
into a house to tie everybody up, and David goes, "Yeah, I should probably go do that one." Which, yeah, probably.
pretty
um,
much yes.
but he goes and does his hero thing where he uh frees the two kids. Unfortunately, can't free either one of the parents.
Oh,
Um,
dude, can we talk about the tension, by the way, on this scene? Because him just walking around that house in
mhm.
his like slicker and like everything, the curtains covering up, the doors covering up. He opens the door and he sees the dead body at the bottom of the stairs, just like he did in his vision, kind of thing.
Right. And his face is largely shadowed, which I think is actually a pretty nice little thing. It's not really like a superhero outfit or something, but it offers him some level of anonymity.
Yeah, it's a
It's
uniform without being a uniform.
right, and it's also happening during a rainstorm, which is sort of coming on the heels of Elijah calling him and leaving him a message, saying like, "Hey man, every superhero has to have a weakness, and yours is water. Good luck."
Which
Um,
is just like mine. We both swallow too fast.
right, right.
Like
Um,
I didn't know. I totally missed that the first time I saw this. I did not miss or I did not catch that Elijah was also afraid of water.
yeah. Um, Also, I did really like that the date scene between David and Audrey. Just a little like we're gonna play a game. Whoops, the game series now. I thought that was a nice little. I think in a lot of movies that probably would have been cut, but it's nice to see the two of them kind of start coming back together. Um, yeah, so David fights the well he gets pushed into the backyard, which whoops is just the covering on the pool. Oh no, water. Um,
Mhm.
which
Like
is
I hate that scene because like I don't know, I like that scene, but I hate it because that is terrifying to me.
yeah, I wasn't. There's a shot that I don't like, which is where someone's just like flipping the camera to show that he's falling off the balcony. And when he lands, sort of like, all right, that was sort of cheesy, but then he starts sinking, and I'm like, all right, that's actually pretty good. And then there's a lot of camera work underwater that I agree is pretty rough, not from a like a filmmaking standpoint, but from a, oh god, he's gonna drown. He's under the water for a real long time.
And the shot of the like the cover coming down, like going around like a zip tie,
that's
it's
rough.
so bad.
Yeah, it's like it's really well done, because I feel like that's probably, I am obviously not a filmmaker. I'm barely even a film watcher. That's why we're doing this series. But I feel like that has to be an I feel like that has to be an incredibly difficult shot to get communicated to the audience, of like, he's underwater in the dark when there's a storm going on with this black pool tarp around him. Like, how do you separate all that stuff out, and how do you make all that stuff make sense on the screen? And I think they did a really great job.
Yeah, it's so visually readable. Like,
yes.
you don't have to explain anything. Like, the whole, what's the rule in movies? Show, don't tell.
Yeah.
And they show it, and they show it really well.
Yep. And then as soon as the glass cane, pops in at the top of the frame, you know exactly what that is and what's happening. Although I had the quick question of like, wait, so is Elijah gonna pull him out of the pool? That seems like a situation that probably isn't gonna happen. And then once he pops up and it's like, oh, the kids have, okay, I got it. All right. That makes more sense.
You don't see the kids' faces either, do you, really? I can't remember.
You do. Yeah, you do. Because as soon as one kid isn't looking when he's freeing them, but I think you see both of them real quick at the pool, because they basically like pull him out, and then it cuts to David going back in the house.
Yeah, that getting out of the pool scene is a very superhero shot, where like he pulls himself out the pool and then he's just standing there in his overcoat.
Yep.
Like, yeah, okay, that's a great scene. I like that shot a lot.
Yeah, and I like that instead of him being like, all right, I got the two, glasses here, let's get going, he's like, no, I gotta head back in here. There's still someone in here. Let's go. And then just proceeds to murder the hell out of the other dude, which is
like, can we talk about this fight though? Because I like this. Like,
it's pretty good.
Like, he is a security guard, so he knows essentially chokeholds.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a trained fighter. He's not a martial artist.
Right.
He knows one thing, probably multiple things, but he knows the chokehold.
Right.
So what does he do? He puts the dude in the chokehold, and he just takes it.
Yeah.
Everything the dude can throw at him, he takes it, because he can't get hurt.
I really like when the janitor knocks him into the wall a couple times, and when they move away, there's just that giant indent of his back in the wall. It's like, all right, that's pretty well done. And yeah, he just chokes this dude out. Does he kill the janitor? I sort of don't know.
I believe so, because he chokes him out, and then he keeps doing the wriggly thing, because he's probably got so much adrenaline running through his system at that point, because chances are David's probably never killed somebody before.
Yeah.
He's in a fight for his life, so the adrenaline is going to be big, so he literally just keeps that hold on for probably a lot longer than you need to.
Yeah.
But understandably so, considering it's his first, thing.
Yeah. And then, he goes to free the mom, she's also unfortunately dead too. But I like that it immediately cuts to David and Audrey at breakfast being pretty...
wait, hold on. No, it doesn't. It cuts to David carrying Audrey up the stairs and putting her into bed.
Yeah.
He says he has the bad dream.
Yeah, that's a good little... It's also really interesting to see... It's like a practical use of his strength. Like, he is not struggling at
It's
all.
literally like a feather. He's just like,
Yeah, he's just like, I gently put you in bed. Like I thought that was a nice little touch that um, somehow I managed to catch, but I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah. And then that's the breakfast scene with Joseph coming in.
Yeah, and
which one of my favorite scenes in the movie is this scene right here. Like
it's really good of him just like sharing the secret with his kid in a way that I feel like makes me warm up a little bit to David, where it's like, just this nearly silent, like, yeah, hey kid, it's me. Like, look at this. Look at this. Like, you helped me figure out I can go help people.
yeah. And then he does like the little shh thing, and the kid's in the middle of crying. And he's just like,
right.
okay, I'll be quiet.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I liked that scene a lot. Like, this is the stuff that I like at the end of this movie, where a lot of all of this quiet stuff is all coming together. I feel like I wish I had time to watch this movie through a second time, because I feel like I might like the build up to the throughout the movie the second time I watch it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, there's wasn't enough time this week.
In all honesty, though, that's what the cinema wins. Like if like I said, I will remind you after we record the first part. I think cinema wins. Like if I feel like watching a movie and it's on cinema wins, but I don't have the time, I'll watch the cinema wins, because it will give me that injection of this is why this movie is great, and that's all I need.
Yeah, without doing the internet poisoning of the other site, the evil YouTube channel.
Yes.
And it's at that point that we sort of finish out the movie with Elijah's, I guess, the opening event of limited edition, where it's like the grand opening kind of party art sale.
I don't know if it's a grand opening, but it's definitely like a gallery showing.
Yeah, I kind of couldn't tell, because really early on there's a line where David shows up to limited edition. He's like, yeah, I got this card. And Elijah's like, yeah, we open in like a couple weeks, whatever, come back. So I think it's that event. And David meets Elijah's mother, where she has like this way too on the nose speech about, every hero has to have a villain who uses their intelligence rather than their strength, which is like a giant like wink.
Yep.
Which is fine. Like I don't really have a problem with that. I think she's a great actor. I think she makes this scene really work.
At this point, have you figured out that it was glass the whole time?
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it's because Shyamalan is a great writer, which I think he is a very good writer. That's not me like being like, oh, he's great. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's because he's a great writer, or if because that's part of the osmosis of this movie, like the last 2 decades of this movie being like, yeah, Mr. Glass is like, he's the bad guy, which from an outside perspective without watching the movie is sort of like, he is. But then, yeah, he like, you have I like the shot of this is where we shake hands, where
such a good line. Like his delivery on that line is just like, I know what I'm about to do.
Yeah, like I'm gonna show my hand completely. And I thought that was a pretty well done scene. The first 2 parts with the airplane and the hotel fire are both okay. I really like him coming off of the train, though. And I like largely because I like that it feels so true to life, where the conductor is just like, hey man, people can't go in there. Anyways, back to work. Like there's no real like there's no real like worry about it. It's just like, what was that guy doing in there? That little rascal. All right, anyways, time to drive this train. That felt pretty good. And And I like the level of revulsion that David is showing Elijah, where it's like, God, you are just, and like him looking through this room back there, where it's like, oh, these are newspaper clippings. Oh, of all the things you've done. Well, that's a bomb you're building. Oh, no.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not even like it's possibly all the things he's done. Possibly, who knows? Did he only do 3 things, or did he do
Right.
all
Possibly
3 things?
research.
Like,
yeah.
yeah, like it's all natural disasters and it's all horrific things that have
With
happened.
no survivors.
Yeah.
Except for this one that had the one survivor. And I think it's a really great scene, and I think it is one of those. It's unfortunate because it like sort of cements Shyamalan's twistiness in his movies after Sixth Sense and this, where it's like you have that immediate thing where you're going back through the 2-hour movie you just watched and you're like, okay, like, and it is both a good and a bad thing. Good for the films and probably bad for sort of pigeonholing Shyamalan. I think it's a pretty solid delivery from Sam Jackson about like, now that we know who you are, I know who I am. Him just saying like, we both know our roles in this story. Like, you're the good guy and I helped you get there, but you know, I'm the bad guy and maybe you helped me too, because now I know your weakness. And really wish the ending to this movie was better than it is, other than 2 lines of white text on the screen about, yeah, David told the cops and now he's in a
asylum.
Hospital for the criminally insane is what they called it in 2000s. Which is, I like, is kind of a bummer after everything coming together really nicely. You sort of get this like 80s movie montage ending where it's like, this person went on to law school and now they're a lawyer. I wish there was like just a little bit more there of, like you said, showing, not telling, but I don't think it ruins the movie. It's just like, I wish there was like, just like that one last little thing there to kind of seal the movie off.
Honestly, I think the only thing I would have changed about this ending was I would have liked to have seen like cut to the next day with maybe him reading the paper about him getting put in prison, and then literally walking out the door and putting on his green rain slicker.
Yeah, that'd be great. This prison won't hold me forever, Charles. Like, you could do that too. But yeah, I think that's, for me, I think that's the only bummer. I don't think it destroyed the movie or anything, but I really wish there was even just like you said, like just a little bit more of the cops, you know, wheeling him out of the limited edition or something, or like something going on. Or even, like you said, not even David, like, putting on the rain jacket and walking out, but like David showing up to work and like just kind of punching the clock again. I think Unbreakable is solid. I feel a little bit more positively about it now that we've sort of talked it out here. But I think it's pretty good. It's a slow, probably better on a rewatch first half that I feel like pays off really nicely in the second half. I did have some worries about David going to the house that the horrible janitor kind of took over. I thought that would be really cheesy, but I feel like that was the scene that really sold the movie on being like a modern day realistic superhero movie.
Yeah.
Because it could have been this like over the top of like kick down the door and the door like flies through the back of the house, and I I punched the bad guy, and he like flew across the room. Whoa, like could have been that.
As much as, don't get me wrong, but I love that stuff though, because like opening to Winter Soldier is one of my favorite openings to a Marvel movie, period.
Oh, it's
And
so
that's
good.
literally Captain America jumping on a ship and kicking somebody across the deck to the point where he basically dies on the side and flies off the edge.
That whole movie is really great, though. Winter Soldier is really good. But it's like, it's so the polar opposite of this movie in like virtually every way. And
Yes.
I think it's really interesting that it has to be hard to tell. And I know that there were marketing issues on release, and there were kind of ad issues on release where Shyamalan is like, I'm telling a superhero story, and the whatever Disney subsidiary put this out was like, yep, it's a psychological thriller, just like Sixth Sense. I was like, Nets, no. Do you like
That
comic
explains,
books? Because this is a comic book movie.
yeah, honestly, that explains a lot of what the reaction to it was, because I never really saw ads for this. I just ended up seeing it in the movies.
I think it
Um,
was Touchstone put it out, if I remember from my research. And Shyamalan is like, yeah, I made a superhero movie. Like, I made a modern day comic book superhero movie. You should tell people to go see it. And they're like, yep, from the director of Sixth Sense, we're making another one of those. And he's like, that's not okay. That's not what I made, but sure. So it seems like some of the initial pushback from that was like, all right, here's the Sixth Sense too. What's the twist going to be in this one? It's like, it's not super like that. There is one, but it's not like that.
yeah.
So I have to give Shyamalan a lot of credit for managing to make a what feels like the most realistic modern day superhero movie that I think you could make, and I really do think it works. Like, I really do think that his powers, however they are, whatever they are, that doesn't really matter. Um, and the sort of opposite of Mr. Glass, whose name even feels like it makes sense in the world. Like, all that stuff really does work, and I think that's pretty
Yeah,
incredible.
because his name is taken from when he was bullied as a kid, which is exactly what kids would say.
Yeah, and he's like, he understandably kind of carries it with him his whole life, and he never uses it in a more positive way. It always is a weakness for him. And I think I'm impressed that I think that stuff really works. I think Shyamalan did a great job with that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, one could argue that when it comes to grounded in reality superhero movies, you've got this movie, then you've got the Nolan movie, Batman trilogies in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
and then you've got the Marvel movies on the, no, this is a comic book movie.
Sure, yeah. Because I mean, there's been other stuff like my super ex-girlfriend, I thought did okay, but I don't think the twist in that movie is super great. There's that what's that superhero movie where Will Smith is like a scumbag superhero?
It's not I'm Legend.
No, but it was like that around that time.
It's literally his name as well.
Yeah, I'm looking it up here.
That's such a Hitch, not Hitch. Hitch is the romantic comedy one.
I hold on. The Hitch Defender's signing on here. I actually kind of like Hitch. It's an okay movie.
Hitch is a fine movie. It
Yeah,
is an
it's fine.
absolutely fine movie.
It's cute. I'll take a cute
Still,
romantic comedy.
on a weekly basis, I still think of the you go 90, she goes 10. On a weekly basis, I still
It's a
think
great
of that line.
Hancock.
Thank you. That's
There
the
it
one.
is. Jason Bateman, Charlize Theron. That's the movie I was thinking of. That's probably a little bit more of an interesting twist. If you haven't watched that movie, that one's an interesting one. But
There's another one that's in our shaky cam camera list for One of our critical misses things is a shaky cam
Yeah.
category, and we've got one of these type of movies in there too.
Yeah. You could probably also do a found footage season. That would probably...
that's what I mean. Shaky
Oh,
cam
okay.
found same.
Yeah.
Tomato.
Yeah, so I feel like there have been some of these, like Hancock came out in 2008. I feel like there have been a couple other ones that have been fairly okay, but I feel like this one feels the most grounded, probably, and I think that really works for it.
Yeah.
How did you feel after your rewatch here?
I still love it. I definitely still love it. I still absolutely adore this movie. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I like the fact that it's slow. Because too often these days it's like literally 2 minutes in and you've got a huge action scene because you have to start it. Winter Soldier is a prime example of this, where 100%. Winter Soldier is an action scene right at the beginning and an action scene right at the end, and nothing but slow in the middle with like a couple of action scenes in the middle.
Right.
But I don't know. I've always liked this. I've always liked character-based movies, and that's what this feels like. This feels like it's all about the three main people in it, and I adore that. It's so good. Like, I still really like it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think it's sort of further cementing for me that I do really like Shyamalan's movies. I feel like his stuff gets crapped on way more than it should for a guy that just makes really solid movies. Like, this is a good movie. Like,
but this is also the world we live in these days, where I can sit here and say you can have both. Like, you can have both Marvel movies and Shyamalan movies and everything else that you want in between. It is fine.
Yeah.
You can't have it all.
Right.
You don't have to like it all. And if you don't like it, shut the hell up and don't make people feel bad for liking it.
It will always be my recommendation that people watch everything they can get their hands on, because if you don't like it, now you know something that you don't like, and that's good. That's good knowledge. Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts here for Unbreakable?
Like, too much, probably. I probably do like this movie too much. But all around, it's fantastic. And I'm so pumped to watch the next one.
Yeah, our next film in the what is the Eastward 177 trilogy. We'll be watching Split next. So we'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.